Kids are kids more than a paycheck. Kids are kids and they are more than a paycheck. Culturally, there is a lot of conversation around relationships, but a lot of times that relationship takes on a monetary or a money centric tone when that relationship fizzles and or there was really no relationship to begin with. And so when we think about kids, for a lot of people, kids become nothing more than a paycheck. And that's a cultural issue that we really have to confront. And a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, kids are a byproduct of an intimate relationship between a man and a woman. And if the man and the woman are in an intimate relationship and it's casual with no desired result of building a family and creating structure, but you're doing the things that ultimately result in kids, happening, then you create this situation in which kids just simply become a byproduct, and then kids just simply become a bill or a paycheck. And I was listening to this conversation with Iman Shumpert and Shannon Sharp, and he was talking about financial scenarios of individuals in professional sports. And one of the things that he highlighted was kids, but he talked about them as kind of like the court kids. And it really was revolving around the impact financially of kids. But I want to really think through the lens of not just the financial impact of children, but what is the impact on the actual child once they grow up and realize that they're just a check? The fighting between the mom and the dad, or the issues or the disagreements between mom and dad, really don't revolve around the kid's well-being, but around the kid's cost, or what the kid results in financially to the primary caretaker. And it just really made me think about the brokenness of culture, because we get to a point in which kids are looked at purely through the lens of how much they cost, or how much, how much they cost versus how much they are actually worth. And if you're a child that grows up knowing that one party is paying and the other party is receiving, and their issues or arguments solely revolve around how much they're paying to raise you, then where does that value proposition of that child, where does that sit? And I don't think we spend enough time with that. And I think those are the conversations before babies are made, or before relationships are entered into, in which babies are the possible result when it's outside of the scope of marriage. I don't think we spend enough time talking about that and the damage that gets done, not because you can financially afford it, but because that kid realizes that maybe to the two parties involved that created them, they're primarily nothing more than a check. So let's this clip from Imam Chumpert and Shannon Sharp, and then we'll come back with some feedback or commentary.
Moms be having hella kids, but it's like that it's court system kids. Like you can't have excuse me.
Oh no.
Court system kids where it's like while you're playing, that BM is just draining your account per month, but you're not even seeing or feeling it because you playing.
Because you playing, yeah.
The moment you stop, you gonna start feeling it.
Yeah. If you make, I mean, 20,000, 30,000 a month ain't nothing if you making 40 million. You not making 40 million and they taking 20, 30,000 a month, and you still got to pay private tuition, which is another 15, 20, 25 a month.
Moms be having hella kids.
I mean, did y'all hear that? And Again, I know they were specifically talking about the financial ramifications of, the baby mama scenarios, but let's not forget that the one impacted by all of this is the child. And it's like when you come to realize that your value proposition or how you're viewed is $20,000 a month. Yes, that's a good amount of money. That's a lot of money. But the reality is, I'm just a check. And to my, whoever the provider is, I'm actually draining them and I'm actually a burden now on them financially. But it's not about the value of the child. It then simply becomes a financial conversation. And this is where, again, we have to have more cultural conversations on no, just because you can write a check does not mean that you need to make a baby. Yeah, we don't talk enough about that. Sometimes we go through the lens of, oh, I take care of my kids. I'm financially supporting. Yes, you're writing checks, but checks don't touch that kid's heart. Checks don't make that kid, help them to understand their true identity and understand who they were created to be. Checks don't provide comfort. They buy stuff, they create houses and pay tuition and buy cars and clothes and get you courtside at games and all. But checks don't help you to be who you are, because if checks were the only solution, then we wouldn't have any issues to begin with, because somebody could just write a check and it'd be done. But we've come to realize that writing the check don't fix it. And so just the cultural conversation, like that thing really stood out to me as something that we really need to spend a lot more time having conversation about. Taking care of your kids does not mean that you just financially support them. The emotional, the mental, the loving support, the knowledge, the wisdom that can be imparted into them by spending time and really cultivating a relationship, but then also making sure that that kid understands that they are more than a check. Situation that was, mentioned here, to the mother, the kid needs to understand that to the mother, this is more than just a check to pay for our lifestyle. And to the father, this is a conversation in which it's like, yo, I'm more than just a check whittling away at your net worth while you're playing professional sports. This is a person. And the thing is, if individuals struggle with identity, they typically struggle with virtually everything they take part in. And then they're out looking for identity in a title or in status or in some type of thing that they do, only to realize anything that you find identity in that's outside of who you are and who God created you to be is probably going to end up leaving you empty. So let's think through this culture problem we have in parenting, in relationships, and really be more thoughtful on the front end that yes, a good time is a good time. I understand it. I had lots of good times prior to marriage when it comes to, doing your thing. But we have to be thoughtful on the possible results of this and to realize that just because you can financially write the check does not mean that you are parenting that child well. And just because that kid has a loaded bank account and a trust fund does not mean all is going to be all right with them as they navigate through life. Because if all you have is a pile of money, but you're empty inside, what did the Bible say? To gain the whole world and lose the soul? Like, real talk, you don't want to gain the whole world and lose your soul. So as parents, let's do more than just giving the kids the world, and let's help them cultivate and nurture and grow their soul as well. And that will come by doing more than simply financially supporting. All right. But that also starts with, as we connect, as we have intimate relationships, let's think through the lens of this is more than just a physical interaction. There are some byproducts to this physical interaction which could carry on for generations to come. And what is my part, or what is my role that I'm playing in that? All right. Well, again, my content again is all about helping you to cultivate, grow, and build a strong mindset. I want you to become the quarterback of your mindset. And there are 5 components to your mindset, 5 areas that really cultivate your mindset: your beliefs, your experiences, your relationships, your perceptions, and your perspectives. Those 5 areas really cultivate your mindset. Those are the things that determine your mindset, and your mindset is your operating system. That's the thing that really navigates as you move through this. That's how you think. That's the engine behind the actions that you take. And we have to strengthen ourselves in all of those areas so that our mindset is strong enough to make the decisions, to do the things, but most importantly, to be who it is we were called and designed to be. All right. Well, hey, as always, y'all leave comments, leave your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this? Right? Leave your comments. I'd love to hear them. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.